Excuse me, how much longer until I'm called? We just called you. What? I replied, startled by the receptionist's words. I hurried into the examination room, surprised to find my husband John already there. Why are you here? I asked, taken aback. John's face went pale, and he tried to rush me out of the room in a panic. But then I caught sight of an incredible scene. My name is Christy Thomas, and I'm 27 years old. I grew up as the eldest of two sisters and now work in corporate office management. 3 years ago, I married John, and we now share a home. We met in college, worked at the same part-time job, dated for 4 years, and got married. Even today, we maintain a relationship where we can talk about anything just like close friends. I'm currently 7 weeks pregnant. John and I wanted a child right after we got married, but it took us 2 years of fertility treatment before our dream finally became a reality. When I visited the OB-GYN alone, the gestational sac, our baby's growing space, was already visible. The ultrasound photo even showed the tiny fetus. I haven't yet told John about the pregnancy because I wanted to surprise him. After my appointment, I bought a cake and picked up ingredients for John's favorite meal at the supermarket. When I got home, I immediately began cooking. A few hours later, John walked in and greeted me with, "I'm home." His eyes widened when he saw the table set with his favorite beef stew. Wow, what's the special occasion? Everything looks amazing. I thought we should have a celebration today, I said. A party? What's the occasion? I went to the hospital today, I replied. Hospital? He asked, his brow furrowed. I handed him the ultrasound photo, and as he looked at it, his anxious expression transformed into one of astonishment. Christy, is this real? Yes, John, I said, beaming. We're going to be parents. John's face lit up with joy. We really are. Yes, our baby is finally on the way, I confirmed, tears of happiness welling up in my eyes. Everything looks great, and our baby is growing steadily. John embraced me, his own eyes filled with tears. Thank you, he said over and over, a grateful smile on his face. Since that day, John has taken on more household chores to help me out. We used to share the work, but now he handles tasks like cleaning the bathroom because he doesn't want me exposed to potential hazards. He's also been managing the heavier grocery shopping, picking up large bags of rice and water. But that's not all. He's been making my prenatal appointments for me, keeping track of my schedule and setting them up online since I'm not as comfortable with internet scheduling. I've been dealing with mild morning sickness, but it hasn't been severe enough to keep me from working. I still come home and prepare dinner as I wait for John's return. Lately, he's been working overtime frequently, usually not coming home until after 9 p.m. Tonight, though, he didn't arrive even after 10 p.m. Normally, he calls if he's going to be late, but this evening, there was no word from him. I tried calling him, but there was no response. I waited anxiously. Finally, just past 11 p.m., I heard the front door open. I rushed to greet him. John, welcome home. I was worried because you didn't contact me. Sorry, something unexpected came up, he said. But you weren't supposed to have overtime tonight. Did something happen? I asked. No, just some unplanned work, he replied, avoiding my gaze. His evasiveness unsettled me, so I pressed further. John, are you hiding something? What? No, I'm not hiding anything. Then why won't you look me in the eye? If there's nothing to hide, you should be able to tell me where you were and what you were doing, right? I told you, I got caught up with some unexpected work, he said, sounding defensive. A junior made a mistake, and I had to step in and handle it. Even so, couldn't you have sent me a message like you usually do? I texted you several times and even called. John, normally so composed, raised his voice at me, his expression one of frustration. This was the first time I'd seen him like this, and it startled me. He continued, his breathing heavy. After working late and then coming home to be doubted. What nerve? Is it entertaining for you to make a fool out of me? John, what are you talking about? I'm not making a fool out of you. I'm just asking why you were late. I told you it was because of overtime. What more do you want? John snapped. It's not about what I want or don't want. You didn't let me know you were going to be late, as you usually do. It felt strange. Enough. You're being so stubborn. Is it because of your pregnancy that you're imagining things? He shot back. What? I replied, shocked by his accusation. Listen, Christy, when you give birth, you won't be able to work. So who do you think will support us? Me, right? John continued, his tone dismissive. If you want me to provide for us, stop interfering with my work. He left abruptly, tossing his suit jacket aside and heading straight for the bathroom. After his bath, he shut himself in our bedroom. I stared at the untouched dinner I had prepared, an overwhelming mix of emotions washing over me. Why would he say such hurtful things? All I did was express concern that something felt off, yet he called it delusional. From that day on, John treated me coldly. It became a regular occurrence for him to come home in the early hours of the morning, while his usual 9 p.m. arrivals grew rare. Amid all this uncertainty, my pregnancy progressed. John, who had once been a helpful and supportive partner, now did no household chores, leaving everything to me. The burden of managing the house while trying not to strain my body began to take its toll on me. Eventually, the pressure of handling everything alone became too much to bear. I called my younger sister Karen. Hey, Karen. Hey, sis, it's been a while. What's going on? I had a bit of a disagreement with John. Really? You two are just like the saying, the more you argue, the better you get along, aren't you? My sister Karen is 3 years younger than me and works in the fashion industry. We've always been incredibly close and have been described as two peas in a pod. During my dating days with John, she was my go-to for advice, and she's an irreplaceable part of my life. That day, she listened to me vent for almost an hour. Talking to her eased my mind a little. I was in the 17th week of my pregnancy, and my belly was starting to show. Feeling stable and healthy, I returned to work as usual after my lunch break. But just as I was about to begin my afternoon tasks, something unexpected happened. I felt a sudden, unfamiliar twinge in my belly. The discomfort lingered, and my thoughts immediately turned to the safety of my child. Anxious, I left work early and rushed to the women's clinic I usually visit. Normally, John would handle making appointments for me, but today was unexpected, so I didn't have one scheduled. It seemed I might have to wait a while for a checkup, but the thought of going home in this state made me uneasy. Prepared for a long wait, I explained the situation to the receptionist. Excuse me, I'm Christy Thomas. I've been experiencing some mild abdominal pain for a while now. Please wait a moment, Ms. Thomas. I don't have an appointment today because this was sudden. Let me check. Oh yes, you're Christy Thomas, right? You're 17 weeks pregnant. We do have an appointment for you. Please have a seat over there. Okay, thank you, I said, following her instructions. I found a seat in the waiting room and pulled out my planner from my bag to check, but there was no appointment scheduled for today. Since the incident, things had been tense between John and me. Despite that, he had still been managing my medical appointments as usual. However, my next appointment wasn't until later. It definitely wasn't scheduled for today. Feeling somewhat uneasy, I decided to wait until they called my name. An hour passed, and I was hit by another stomachache. I stood up and headed to the restroom. Yet, even after returning, my turn still hadn't come. For a busy clinic, I should have been called by now. Could it be that there was no appointment scheduled for me after all? I approached a different staff member at the reception desk. Excuse me, do you know how much longer it will be until I'm called? May I have your name, please? The staff member asked. It's Christy Thomas, I replied. I've been waiting for over an hour. Thomas, the staff member paused. Oh, is there a problem? I asked, feeling a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. Well, you were called just now, the staff member said. What? I should have been called into consultation room number 3. I thanked the staff member and quickly made my way to consultation room number 3. A sign on the door indicated it was occupied. Confused, I knocked on the door. A nurse opened it and asked, "Can I help you?" I'm Christy Thomas. I had to use the restroom earlier, and Christy Thomas? The receptionist's voice echoed from inside the room. I had already been called, but the sign on the door said in consultation, so I assumed someone else had entered. Wait, you're Christy Thomas? The nurse asked, looking puzzled. But there's already someone in the room with that name. What? I exclaimed. Nothing about the situation made sense. Determined to find out what was going on, I pushed past the nurse and entered the examination room. What I saw next was beyond belief. My husband, John, was standing there. Why are you here? I asked, shocked. John immediately began speaking in a flustered manner. Christy, what are you doing here? That was going to be my question. Why are you here? I retorted. Well, he stammered. Did you make this appointment under my name? Why? Just leave for now, John said, trying to push me out of the room. Given the bizarre situation, I couldn't back down. Explain this to me, John. Why are you here right now? I'll explain later, he pleaded. Just go for now. No, I want an explanation now. I can't just walk away from this, I insisted. As I argued with John, the doctor, who had apparently just returned from an internal exam, came back looking puzzled. Wait, Christy, the doctor said, his eyes widening in confusion. What are you doing here? I just got here, I replied. Then who did I just examine? The doctor asked. As the doctor spoke, the door to the examination room opened and my sister Karen emerged. Karen? I gasped, stunned. I was utterly bewildered by what was happening. Why was Karen here? Oh well, Karen stammered. Her hesitation only fueled my growing frustration. Why is the appointment under my name, and why did you just leave the examination room? The doctor, who had been observing the scene, stepped in. Mrs. Thomas, I apologize for the mix-up. She was wearing a mask, so I couldn't tell, but I thought it was strange when the baby seemed too small for 17 weeks of pregnancy. It was no wonder the doctor had mistaken Karen for me. We looked so much alike, and the mask made it even harder to tell us apart. Doctor, the woman you just examined is my sister, and the man over there is my husband, I explained. What? So you mean the father of the baby I just examined is? The doctor's sharp gaze shifted to John, whose face had gone pale. In that moment, I finally pieced everything together. John, Karen, I need an explanation from the beginning. Whether they had resigned themselves to the situation or not, they slowly began to speak. According to them, they had been in a relationship for about a year. While I was struggling to conceive and undergoing fertility treatment, they said they succumbed to temptation. When my pregnancy was confirmed, they were initially happy for me. But shortly after, Karen's pregnancy was also confirmed. Karen asked John to accompany her to the hospital because she was nervous. In his typical carelessness, John mistakenly booked the appointment under my name. He realized the mix-up just before they arrived at the hospital and panicking pretended to have forgotten the insurance card and completed the check-in under my account. While I was in the restroom, there was a shift change at the front desk. Karen must have seized the opportunity to slip into the examination room without crossing paths with me. Initially, the doctor didn't realize it was Karen since she was wearing a mask. However, during the examination, it became evident that she wasn't me. As the doctor puzzled over this, I arrived at the examination room. After regaining my composure, I underwent my own checkup. The abdominal pain was diagnosed as transient, and there were no issues with my baby. I gathered my husband and sister and headed straight for our parents' house. I also contacted John's parents and asked them to join us. Once everyone was assembled, I explained the entire situation. Of course, you're going to take responsibility, right? I asked, directing my question at my husband. Responsibility? Of course I will continue to be with you, Christy, he replied. Huh? What are you talking about? We're obviously getting a divorce, I interjected. But you just mentioned responsibility, he countered. The responsibility I'm talking about is alimony. I'm going to make sure you both pay for what you've done, I declared, feeling a surge of anger. What? Wait a minute. I never intended to get a divorce, my husband protested. His words ignited fury in my sister, who was standing nearby. You said you loved me more. Was that all a lie? Karen grabbed my husband's collar, and they began to argue. Their loud quarrel pushed my anger to its peak. I splashed the tea from the table onto both of them, raising my voice to get their attention. Enough is enough. I'm divorcing John and cutting ties with Karen. You two just need to pay the alimony without argument. Wait, Christy, I love you. John tried to intervene. Christy, I'm your sister. Don't talk about alimony, Karen protested. Both of you stop. You're only saying what suits you. How far do you plan to humiliate me? I'll collect the alimony by any means necessary, even if it means sending you two to hell. If you understand, get out of my sight, you scoundrels. At my outburst, they both fell to their knees, pleading for forgiveness. Please forgive me, Christy, John begged. I also beg you, Karen added. But it was too late. Their actions were unforgivable, and I had no intention of pardoning them. After that, my husband and I divorced as expected. I blocked Karen's contact information and severed all ties with them. They were disowned by their families and forced to fend for themselves. John's affair became known at his workplace, and he faced cold stares from his colleagues. Unable to endure the hostile atmosphere, he started skipping work without notice and was eventually fired. Karen, suffering from severe morning sickness, had already quit her job. Now both were unemployed, and their relationship grew increasingly toxic, filled with curses and misery. They lived together but never married. It's clear they won't support each other as a married couple in the future. As for me, I moved back to my parents' house and embraced a new life as a single expectant mother. I switched to remote work and am now waiting anxiously for the birth of my child. Though I fear raising my child without a father, I am determined to pour all my love into my child and raise them the best way I can.